Texas A&M beat the absolute piss out of the Missouri Tigers and looked good in every single possible way. When you look at this SEC race, there are there's something that you have to have in order to compete at the top level of the SEC, and that is winners, game wreckers, and really solid players in the trenches, both offensively and defensively. And Texas A&M has both. I've been a little bit down on Texas A&M based on what we've seen on the offensive side of the ball. I've been a little bit skeptical of the secondary. I was a little bit skeptical of their ability to game plan for Luther Burden, but boy, did BJ Mays came up big. I know Jaden Hill, there was a penalty that got called back. I wouldn't say Jaden Hill played a great game, but Will Lee shut down Theo Weiss. He was absolutely ridiculous. The safeties were awesome. Dalton Brooks was unbelievable. The linebackers, Damian Sanford seems to have solidified himself as that weak side linebacker. He's so fast and so good. Nick Scorden is finally just emerging as an absolute monster. Shamar Stewart looks good. Al Regis looked good. Rodis Johnson had a sack. I mean, yeah, and then on the offensive side of the ball, the most important thing, besides, you're able to run the ball against a team that definitely was fraudulent on the defensive side of the ball, was not the. We talked about that. They played some pretty terrible teams. That defense is a lot worse than, they actually were. But I took this because of Mizzou's offense, but offensively, Connor Wigman was back. And, picking this game on Monday, when we did, I didn't have Connor Wigman starting on my bingo card there, so yet. So as the week went on, there was more and more of a possibility that he was going to play. Yeah, he was so good. He was on time. He was accurate. This offense did everything right and everything well. And as a schedule moving forward, you got games against LSU at home, which you can definitely win. You got South Carolina on the road, which is kind of scary on the road, but you can definitely win that game. An Auburn team on the road, you can definitely win that. Mississippi State, you can definitely win that. If you win those 4 games, you're undefeated, and you're going into the Texas game, likely having to win that game to go to the SEC championship. But boy, there's opportunity.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, probably, but like
I,
not
I
necessarily.
don't, with who knows, with Georgia and Bama and Tennessee, they're one of those teams is probably, well, they're definitely going to lose other games. They play
Well,
each
Bama and
other,
Tennessee
so
play each
there
other.
might be a
Texas and
possibility.
Georgia play each other. So Tennessee and Georgia play each other. So
At
yeah, there could be a lot of attrition there.
Ole Miss and
If
Georgia,
you take care of the A&M, those
yeah,
4 games, they'll be favored in all of them. LSU, South Carolina, Auburn, and Mississippi State. They'll be favored in all of them.
all of a sudden, I think, and in college football, we do say this sometimes, where like when you lose, it matters. Like it is a lot easier to come back, right, in terms of the committee's eyes and even the public eyes. If you lose early in the season and then you have 4, 5, 6 weeks of looking good, even though hasn't really looked good, but obviously Wigman coming back in lineup, this is the best he's looked in a long time. That's very encouraging, I think, for kind of Wigman truthers like we are on the show here, and also um, A&M in general, and Colin Klein was in his bag. But it's a lot easier to be in your bag when your offensive line is playing as well as they did. Missouri really, really missing some of those studs they had last year in that defense, right? They had a couple NFL draft picks that were really, really good. And Drake Straw, obviously, Darius Robinson, the defensive lineman, a lot of guys that did a lot of things for them and maybe covered up some weak spots for Missouri. And they're having a tough time not only replacing Blake Baker and that defensive staff, but you saw they just didn't have the players, man, to just kind of square up with Texas A&M. If their O-line plays like they did against Missouri, they're going to win a lot of football games in the next couple months here and give Texas a heck of a problem to deal with, right, come November. Like you said, obviously super encouraging. They just jumped on Missouri. I will say, too, though, the early penalty on Missouri and the early stop, right, 4th and 2, those were different. Like, if you play this game 10 times, like, it's not going to average a 31-point margin of victory. We did mention how we didn't think either of these teams were very, very good coming in this football game, right? I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't think Missouri is really a top 9 team in the country. Obviously, A&M played to their potential this game, and they were healthy and looking good offensively, which is a different dynamic we have not seen. And they came out guns blazing, 24 straight points, and then obviously coming out of halftime too with touchdown, field goal, punt, touchdown. and really putting the game away. Yeah, it was awesome. A big time rebound. This Mike Elko doing a fantastic job. Colin Klein finally getting what we've kind of been waiting for him, right? Deserving that big contract, deserving that big promotion to come to Texas A&M. And listen, I said this on Twitter before. We're talking to our good buddy Drew Tamu over right on Twitter, and he's like, "Yeah, Connor Wiggum gives him the best chance to win," and I absolutely agree with that. I don't know how you feel though, but I
Thousand
think when
percent
Connor
agree.
Wiggum's playing like this, when he's healthy, and listen, I love Marcel Reed, but let's not. He wasn't like this crazy world beater. He's still a young football player, very talented, bright future ahead of him. But Connor Wiggman is the answer this year. He is going to be the guy to take you to the promised land and help you accomplish your goals at Texas A&M. Which, by the way, not to get ahead of ourselves here, a lot can change week to week. You get a bye week, and then you get Mississippi State, and then you really start your schedule. The playoff is a real possibility, I think, for Texas A&M. Obviously, the wins might not be there if Missouri and LSU, right, and Arkansas. I guess if they're getting better, but they're not going to be super highly ranked. But if you've got two tough losses to Notre Dame and Texas, right, if that's the case, I do think those are about as good of losses as you can ask for, right? And especially if Notre Dame keeps winning football games. But wow, I mean, how much things have changed, right, for so many teams, but especially A&M since early September, right?
Yeah, seriously. And if you win LSU in Kyle Field, and maybe Texas looks a little bit vulnerable in some spots, the expectations for the season will drastically change. When they look as good as they do up front on both sides of the ball, in pass protection and in their run game, like that offensive line looks good right now. And they're banged up, by the way. They're banged up and they look good. Like right
Yeah,
when Mark Naboo got hurt, Amaj Reed Adams is playing a little bit banged up. Trey Zune has looked awesome. I mean, it is it's a cohesive unit right now. They're playing like and Le'Veon Moss, the leading rusher in the SEC, is continuing to turn heads for people and just how hard he runs. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for Texas
I,
A&M.